All right. And then fade to black. Time to start. Going to count us in. We are going live in 5, 4, 3.
Yummy like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for December 19th, 2024. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, more Nintendo Switch 2 leaks bring some potentially good news, and we must save Mariah Carey from her wintry prison. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host of Game Mess Mornings. It's Jan Ochoa. Jan, how are you doing?
I am okay. I haven't had any cough drops today, but 2 days ago after the bombcast, I was dying.
Yeah, was that just like losing the voice? Is that what the big thing was? I'm like, I thought I had a sore throat. It keeps kind of like beginning and then going away. I don't know what's going on over here.
It keeps coming. It keeps going. We're okay. I realize perhaps when on a normal week, I'm used to sleeping at like 10 or 11. Adjusting that to a week of sleeping at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And then waking up 2 hours later may not be conducive to your voice, especially when you have to yap a lot on a microphone and everything. So maybe we're just catching up on sleep debt, perhaps.
Oh, yeah.
I do never want to see the JW again.
I will be happy if we never hang out there again. If we never hang out there again, it'll be too soon. But I expect to be there within 6 months. Yeah, for real. I slept through a giant explosion this morning.
What?
It woke up my wife. There is a power plant not too far from where I live. That is defunct. It has been kind of sitting there for years since we lived here. And this morning, they finally did the final implosions on it. And boy, that implosion turned into an explosion. I don't know if it was supposed to, but I've seen the video of it, and it shook the entire area. It was massive. And we're a couple miles away, and it woke up Steph this morning at about 5 a.m. It was pretty wild
Holy
stuff.
smokes.
Yeah, I should post some video of it.
Yeah, I feel like you'd be first in line to see that happen.
If I had known it was going to happen, Jan, I 100% would have gone over to watch it. Some of the video of people taking a look at it was very cool. It was just a massive fireball, and then these two stacks, coal stacks. I don't know. They both just kind of tumble over on top of one another, and it's right next to the lake, so they did have to be very careful with it. But seems like everything went as planned as far as I can tell, other than maybe the giant fireball. That didn't seem like they needed that. Not that I'm complaining. Giant fireballs are cool. But yeah, so the answer apparently I will not wake up from an explosion. Are you looking at it?
Yeah, I think Hammond of Texas linked to it in chat.
Yes, that's it. Avon Lake power plant implodes. That's the one.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Wish I would have saw it. Next time, I'll just have to wait, a few hundred years for them to explode the next thing.
We'll find you a defunct power plant.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I did like the way it looked. Just go driving past it. It had this rustic look to it, and but it was falling apart. So I guess I'm glad they're going to destroy it. Apparently, they're going to do something cool over there. So that could be exciting. Jen, I am still definitely recovering from the trip. I don't know. The extra day at Universal was fun, but maybe a strategic error in terms of me being able to get back into the swing of things. I don't know.
Nah.
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't think it was a strategic error. You deserved it, Grubb.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But boy, I'm like, ugh, every day now I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this. And I get halfway through the first thing. I'm still very sleepy. So we're going to get back in the swing of things here eventually, but I'm looking forward to this weekend. Although now, because we were gone for so long, there's 5 Christmas things that we're going to try to cram into this weekend. We got the Christmas train this weekend.
Boy. Oh, choo-choo. All aboard, everybody.
That's it's one of my favorites each year. You have any Christmas stuff you're going to try to do?
Oh, who knows, Grubb? Who knows?
I know. Well, yeah.
We're
Just wing it.
we're hanging and clanging in the
Yeah.
holiday season.
Hell yeah.
Well, we're gonna figure something out.
All right, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with a leak suggests Switch 2 has Hall effect sticks and is more powerful when docked. This is from Ollie Welsh at Polygon. The rate of leaks about Nintendo's next console is intensifying, although the same can't necessarily be said of genuinely new information emerging from those leaks. However, a particularly substantive report has emerged from Reddit user Next Handheld, who claims to have seen and handled a final release version of the console and its dock, albeit while powered off. The Verge reports that it has spoken to Next Handheld and heard and seen enough, including photos, to believe their claims. Among those claims, the console appears to be called Nintendo Switch 2, the same moniker used as a convenient shorthand by almost everyone since it became clear that Nintendo was making a straightforward successor to the console to the Switch. Safe farewell to your dreams, Super Switch fans. The Verge says the system's dock displays the same logo as the original Nintendo Switch, only with a 2 attached to it. Next Handheld also claims the Switch 2's Joy-Con controllers will have Hall effect joysticks. These sticks work using electromagnetic fields and don't require physical contact between their sensor components, making them much more reliable and immune to the drift issue that have plagued the Switch's Joy-Cons. Hall effect sticks are common in third-party controllers, but have been a rare in official console controllers up to this point, so this is a significant upgrade. They were used actually in the first-party Dreamcast controllers, which is why those controllers still work pretty much as advertised. Even more fascinating, the Next Handheld leaks suggest the Switch 2 will have extra power when docked. The leaker teased that asking if the dock had its own cooling fan was the right question, and that The Verge has seen evidence of vents on the dock. Next Handheld also said the dock is rated to draw 60 watts of power versus 45 watts for the undocked console. The implication is that the dock will increase the console's graphical capabilities, either through its own upscaling hardware or by allowing the Switch 2 to run hot in an essentially overclocked mode. This is suggestive of the old rumors of a Switch Pro device that never materialized. Supposedly a Switch that would be capable of 4K display on a TV when docked. It's a little tenuous, but the report does bring the dream of 4K Nintendo gaming one small step closer, I suppose, to reality. I mean, Jan, I think even when docked, we're you know, right? We're not going to get native 4K, but upscaled 4K with a slightly sharper base resolution, that sounds plausible, right?
I think at bare minimum, Nintendo has to be able to do that, for as much as folks don't quite care about graphic fidelity when it comes to Nintendo games. I feel like just with how common 4K TVs, cheap as well, 4K TVs have become, especially during the holiday season, you're going to need at least some type of upscaled 4K when docked. Now, I'm someone that never docks my Switch, so may not appeal to me, but if there is a promised power improvement when playing docked, and perhaps like you can kind of overclock it, then for sure. The most interesting thing is like the Hall effect sticks, Grubb, because if I was Nintendo, one of the biggest missteps that I want to avoid jumping out the gate is immediate Joy-Con drift, or whatever they're going to call the Switch 2's controllers, if they pop out or not. I mean, if it is going to be docked, I'm going to assume that they also pop off.
Yeah, but and like the word there is like they just use a new magnetic connection to connect them to the dot or to the base unit and stuff like that. So yeah, it sounds pretty similar.
Yeah, I also didn't realize that Hall effect sticks weren't only for video games, and apparently they're also used when it comes to heavy machinery. So
yeah, I bet that's like super important for that sort of thing, right? Where it's like you can't have drift in a forklift.
Turns out,
yeah, that would be bad. Yeah, I mean, and Hall effect is a old technology. It's been around for a long time. Like I said, it was built into the Dreamcast controller, so they've been using them in video games in one way or another for a very long time. I honestly, I don't know the history. I bet it goes back way further than that even. Usually when like a technology is named after a scientist, it feels like it came from sometime in the mid 1900s. Right. Yeah. So that's good news. You're right. This will avoid the drift issue. And we'll just make these controllers more reliable in general, and that'll be nice to have. And I won't have to feel the need to go get third-party things that are going to last. It'll just come with these controllers. And Nintendo knows, for as much as having controllers like break slowly over time is a benefit to these companies, they sell a lot of controllers to people who have controllers that are a little bit scuffed. They know that they're good at selling that stuff anyhow by introducing new colors and variants and things like that. So they're going to be just fine. And those controller profit margins that are super high are not going to go anywhere. Like they're going to survive this by giving us reliable controllers. I mean, at this point, though, as we get these rumors and we sort of haven't got and here's the weird thing about the Switch 2 yet, I'm starting to feel like there probably isn't a weird thing. And are you a little disappointed by any of that? Or are you like just happy the Switch 2 is going to be more Switch?
I'm a little disappointed just because, when you're looking at PlayStation and Xbox, like these are just consoles at this point, right? They're just big boxes that play games and the games look nice. With Nintendo, there's always like that fun gimmick, even if they abandon that gimmick fairly early into the consoles or the portables lifespan. Like, when was the last time you had a game that innovated like everybody wanted to Switch?
That's right. Of course. Yeah.
Exactly. So I would have enjoyed seeing some type of gimmick. I mean, maybe there is one. Like we talked about, you and Mike last Tuesday talked about the possibility of there being a camera on a Switch 2, and I think that'd be fun. That'd be interesting. There's the infrared camera already built into the Joy-Cons, so some type of C button or a capture button would be cool. I'm still holding out for the watch, Grubb.
Yeah, a watch. I mean, honestly, if there's some sort of hardware gimmick, watch still seems on the table.
I'd be really up for if Nintendo kind of just married the portability aspect completely with the Switch 2 and like the home console factor, because I feel like they're when peak public transportation was a thing pre-pandemic, you must have run into so many people with a Switch in their backpack or like on their persons traveling through the airport. There's got to be so many people with Switches there. So street passing would be a fun little gimmick thing again with the Switch too, if they had it. I'm a big fan of how with iPhones, if you Nikki Grayson showed this to me, but if you just like bump your iPhone next to someone, you'll share your contact info. Something like that with the Switch 2 would be really cool. I really want a gimmick, but we don't need a gimmick. If we get stronger, better performance out of a Switch 2, that's cool, I guess.
Yeah,
but I want something dumb.
I think that people in chat are like saying if there's something dumb's going to show up in there, something weird, it'll probably be in the OS. It'll probably be in the software. Some new OS feature that they can't show off yet, or we can't get leaked yet because we haven't seen that stuff.
Maybe they got rid of keyboards on the Switch OS and it's all just rotary style.
Okay, yeah. Let's bring back the rotary style. It'll be fun and quirky because it's Nintendo and you can't complain about it. People are asking like, hey, what are the weird buttons on the back of these renders that we keep seeing? They're like little buttons below the shoulder buttons, but kind of like in the nook where your finger goes. So it looks like you could be pressing them while you're playing games. I bet those are just still to detach the Joy-Cons from the device. It would be hard to imagine that they would be used for much more than that.
Grubb. What if we've been looking at this the wrong way? You know how we've seen reports that the Switch 2 will have magnetic Joy-Cons versus the slotting in Joy-Cons, perhaps? Someone mentioned this in the chat of what if there is a interchangeable Tate mode? What if it's just Tate?
Oh, all Tate? Oops, all Tate?
Oops, all Tate. What if Nintendo's like, you know what? Everyone is playing landscape on their phones or portrait on their phones.
Right.
Let's
all Nintendo Switch 2 games are in portrait. Get used to it. You can't see
People
anything
will
coming from your peripheral in Mario. Screw you.
people will have to turn their TVs on the side.
They begin selling tall TVs. Nintendo tall TVs.
Oh my God, Grub. Just wait, everybody. Timestamp this now. 12/19/2024. Jeff Grubb and Jan Ochoa finally cracked the code.
We did it, everybody. We got into the system and we broke them. Yeah, hey, boy, the leaks are coming out really fast. And I think that continues to mean that this thing is in manufacturing and it's beginning to get out there and people are getting their hands on it. And you would think that Nintendo would want to come out and confirm it and talk about it so that they can avoid these situations, but they just don't seem to care. So they continue to seem to be announcing it on their own timeline, which at this point still seems like sometime early next year.
Yeah, who knows?
Well, who knows? All right, let's see here. Stick with future hardware stories. Sony and AMD are partnering to launch a project called Amethyst that will change gaming forever. This is from Oscar Antonin Docal at Game Reactor. Just weeks after the release of the PS5 Pro, Sony is already looking ahead to its next major technological breakthrough. This time, the company has decided to partner with AMD once again, the tech leader behind the custom chips in both the PS4 and PS5, as well as the Xbox consoles. Together, they're launching a game-changing project called Amethyst, which aims to dramatically improve gaming graphics and overall gameplay. In a recent presentation, Mark Cerny, the mastermind behind the PS5 and PS5 Pro, shared new insights into Sony's latest console. One of the most exciting reveals was the announcement of Amethyst, a collaboration named after the fusion of AMD's signature red and PlayStation's iconic blue. The goal of this initiative is twofold. First, the companies aim to create an architecture that is optimized for machine learning. This technology will enable more efficient processing of neural networks, especially those used in game graphics. This vision is to push the boundaries of what's possible by integrating fully fused networks for a smoother, more immersive gaming experience. However, the impact of machine learning can be used across devices, revolutionizing the gaming industry as a whole. On the graphics front, the collaboration will focus on developing a high-quality set of neural networks specifically designed for game visuals. With this, both Sony Interactive Entertainment and AMD will have flexibility to work independently on advancing the technology. The hope is that this will lead to more detailed graphics and greater use of advanced features like ray tracing and path tracing in upcoming games. In other words, Amethyst is set to take gaming visuals and gameplay to the next level, bringing us closer to the next frontier of interactive entertainment. Hey, I think it's probably time that these big companies, both on the hardware side and on the platform/game creation side, begin looking at like, hey, we have sort of found a rut that we've fallen into with game visuals, and what is the next step? Is it just getting even better performance from rasterization, or is there something else beyond? It's kind of a little bit similar to what's happened with the hardware overall, where Moore's law was it's going to get twice as powerful and half as expensive every 18 months, and that has slowed down over the last couple of years. And at the same time, the improvement in game visuals has slowed down just based on the return on investment, or what's it called when either way, yes, the return on actual putting the money into getting better visuals is just not having the same result. And so it's like, okay, well, is there something that could be done that is a new idea of creating graphics? And that seems to be what they're going after with this idea of machine learning powering visuals in the first place. We've seen some early tests of this, and it's like this weird thing where the AI is generating the video game on the fly and while people are interacting with it, and then it works for 15 seconds and it falls apart. Maybe that is the future. I don't know. One thing I do think, Jan, is it's very difficult to get the games industry to adopt a new technology like this unless it is just fundamentally better in every way. And so it feels like this has an uphill climb, but I think it's worth investigating.
Yeah, 100%. I will say, from someone that doesn't quite care about graphic fidelity or performance, this doesn't. It is going in one ear and out the other. I understand that, but I 100% agree with you, Grub. You're going to need a lot of people to have to adopt this, and when graphics jazz seems like it's all over the place. It seems like it's going to be definitely hard to find some uniform approach to tackling this. I mean, if it's within Sony internally can have their studios, have their internal studios that they're also working with. Like, hey, just go push this, dogs. But personally, Grub, like it's just blah.
Yep. No, it's right.
I'd rather care about like, hey, make the Mario look smooth.
Make Mario smoother. They've been afraid to do it, and it's time that they get over their cowardice and make the smoothest Mario possible. I do have an interest in the gameplay side of things and what that can unlock. Changing the way that the graphics are rendered. I think that is, though, taking the long way around to get to video games. They're probably still going to look pretty similar to what we have from rasterized graphics at the moment. And it's like pretty confusing. But right now, the developer makes a world. They use a bunch of tools to say, hey, this is what the system should do when it needs to render out the graphics. And AI would be able to do that on the fly. Supposedly, that's what they're going for. That's what they're trying to do on that side of things. I think at the best case scenario there is probably we get games that look maybe about the same, but somehow are a little bit easier for developers to produce. There's something to be said for that, but we're not going to notice that all that much. A game that does have the ability to use machine learning for enemy interactions, that is still I'm very curious about that. I remember seeing an early example of machine learning. They're like, here, we're going to build a 3D model, and then we're going to tell the model, learn the most efficient way to walk, and basically teach yourself the best walking animation. And they sent the thing through the program, 10 million times in a few minutes, and it came back out, and it had a pretty decent walking animation that it had just learned itself, and it looked really natural. And it's like, if you could build a whole world that was operating on those same rule sets of, hey, do what's best for yourself to under these certain set of parameters, I think you could create interesting gaming worlds that feel more alive. But we haven't seen the proof of that. But hey, that's what they're going to try and investigate with this. And I'm glad that Sony AMD are pushing forward on these ideas. Even if we know the motivation here is they are at a point where it's harder and harder to sell us new hardware because the current consoles we have and the current GPUs we have in a lot of cases are good enough. And so they have to create the FOMO. They have to create the forced obsolescence of here's what the new technology could do that your old technology can't. And that's clearly the motivation here. But still, maybe we do get something new and interesting. And gaming has always been about novelty and the next new weird thing. And this could be it, I think, maybe.
We shouldn't train the machines to walk, Grub.
The machines should just sit down and
stay there.
Yes, just stay in your chair, please. All right, Sony to become largest shareholder of From Software parent company Kadokawa. This is from James Batchelor at GamesIndustry.biz, and this is a follow-up to a story we've been talking about for the last few weeks. Sony is increasing its stake in Kadokawa Corporation, which will make it From Software parent's biggest shareholder. Kadokawa owns From Software. Just to be clear, there owns a significant portion of it. The company announced a strategic capital and business alliance agreement, which will see Sony acquiring more than 12 million new shares in Kadokawa by January 7th, 2025, for around $318 million. Added to the Kadokawa shares that the PlayStation firm previously acquired in February 2021, this will give Sony an approximately 10% stake in the company. Sony already owns a 14% stake in the Elden Ring developer From Software separately, which is owned, and the rest of that is owned by Kadokawa. The agreement goes beyond the sale of shares. The two companies are planning to work together in the future on a number of joint projects, including adapting some of Kadokawa's IP into live-action films and TV dramas, co-producing anime works, and expanding the publishing and distribution for both Kadokawa's anime and video games. The news comes after Sony indicated interest in acquiring Kadokawa Corporation at the end of last month, and that would have been a full-on acquisition. And Sony's interest there, expressing interest, Kadokawa was like, "Hey, we know you want to work together. We either acquire us wholesale, or let's figure something else out." And this seems to be them figuring something else out because Sony maybe didn't want to actually go through with a full acquisition. They've always been hesitant about that because Kadokawa has a lot of other businesses that Sony is not interested in beyond the anime and the video games. Don't know what else to say about this much. I suppose, hey, a strategic partnership does lead to both companies maybe getting a little bit more of what they wanted. Sony loves anime right now. That's the big part of their business. Do you think this means a lot more video games based on anime from Sony?
I don't immediately see that being the case, Grub,
Right.
just because, track record for video game adaptations for anime not never really being super stellar. Not saying that they're all bad, but I can't remember at least the last time one was particularly striking. Maybe Sparking Zero from this year, um, but I feel like this is Sony making I don't want to say smart bets, but smart investments with From. They see that From is a fucking powerhouse when it is
Hmm.
coming to games, and there are other aspects of Kadokawa's uh, tendrils in the industry. I've seen some people say that this may be kind of ugly for anime.
Yeah, Sony already
And
owns a lot of the anime business.
yeah, so we'll have to see in a bit about how that's going to affect the anime business. Um, but I maybe we're going to see an Uncharted anime, Grub.
Yeah,
Maybe we're going to see a Sad Dad God of War anime.
yeah, it's about time. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that from the anime manga side of things, I know that this puts even more eggs in one basket, although not as bad as it would have been had Sony actually went through with the acquisition of Kadokawa. So maybe this avoids the worst case scenario there. But Sony does seem to be the one major conglomerate that is bringing all things together in anime, and I don't think people have super positive feelings about like what happened when like Sony had Crunchyroll and acquired like some of the other stuff. I can't remember what the other ones
Yeah.
were called, but they kind of brought them all under one roof, and people seem to be a little bit less than enthused about what happened there. And if this like follows that trend, I imagine those fans could be even more frustrated. And then when it comes to the games, I think you're right that hey, they probably won't have the resources to be able to immediately make a ton of games based on all that stuff. It's hard to find a development team to just drop everything and be like, okay, now we have, let's say conservatively 15 new things from Kadokawa we could begin working on to adapt. That's not going to happen that way.
No. And I don't think you could do an asset flip of a game and make that work unless, I don't know, maybe you're bringing skins into an existing game, but then what does Sony really
Sure.
have to apply skins to perhaps Helldivers? But I mean, we'll talk about Helldivers 2 soon in the news.
Yep, that's right. And it's like, what is Sony going to start producing anime games on the level of a Bandai Namco? Like, they're not going to do that. Like, Bandai Namco makes decent money from some of those. Some of them do better than others. Some of them are better than others. Those anime games from Bandai Namco, but they feel they're all about 7s out of 10s. And I don't think Sony wants to be in the business of just churning that kind of thing out.
No. And also with like we've talked about this at length, but like the cadence of Sony's like AAA big blockbuster games, that's not going to translate to an anime game anytime soon.
Right. All right. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, Mariah Carey is trapped in a block of ice, and we got to do something.
What?
We'll talk about it after this. All right, we are back, and as promised, Mariah Carey is currently trapped inside a giant block of ice in Fortnite. This is from John Walker at Kotaku. If you updated Fortnite yesterday, you will likely have noticed that the island is now half covered in snow. Furious gingerbread men are scattered about, and there's an enormous monolith of ice sticking out of a hillside. Leakers are claiming that Mariah Carey is going to emerge from within that ice. Fortnite has boasted some very peculiar tie-ins in the past, more recently reaching a lunatic fever pitch where so many IPs and franchises are involved at once that October saw people dressed as Edward Scissorhands and Jason Voorhees taking up arms against Doctor Doom with the help from Iron Man. In November, you could battle Snoop Dogg and Eminem while sporting a brand new pair of Nikes on your amorphous blob creature. It's a corporate soup of cameos and crossovers which, viewed from the outside, can appear rather gross. And now Mariah Carey, of all people, are getting involved in the mix. I'm a recent convert to Fortnite, drawn in by my 10-year-old, having made the lazy but understandable mistake of thinking it's just a cacophony of cartoonish noise. Turns out, beneath the corporate tie-ins and embarrassing celebrity endorsements, it's one hell of a solid online shooter. I thoroughly enjoy playing, ideally in duos with the boy, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Mariah Carey's in some ice. Yeah, listen, I hope it thaws. She comes out. She sings the song on Christmas Eve. I don't know. I don't know exactly how it's going to go down. But I continue to think these dumb celebrity tie-ins are getting weirder and weirder in all the best ways.
Yeah, I'm all for this type of celebrity endorsement, or like ham-fisting a celebrity into a game. It's fun, it's dumb. It's I don't think it's hurting anyone. I guess unless folks that don't celebrate Christmas are very offended. But hey, you can at least see a giant Mariah Carey, perhaps.
Yeah.
What if like Mariah Carey fights Godzilla?
Yeah, she should. That would be
Yeah.
fantastic. Um,
It's so funny because like the sentence that you read of Jason Voorhees and Edward Scissorhands fighting Doctor Doom with the help of Iron Man is like the promised dream of the Ready Player One movie,
yeah,
and
it
it's
is
just in
happening.
Fortnite.
It's just Fortnite. That's right. The metaverse is real, and it
Yeah.
runs on Unreal Engine. Yeah, it's. I think this sort of thing continues to be fun. They know what. I mean, Fortnite is just the best at these events. They really are. They know how to change up their map in a way that will get people curious and come back in. And I definitely want to see this for myself. I don't know exactly how I get a Mariah Carey to emerge, but I want to see it.
Two things, Grim. One, I just want Titanfall 3 to just happen, but in Fortnite. I feel like that is a sooner possibility. Two, what if the actual thing inside that block game that Peter Molyneux was talking about, what if it was actually just Mariah Carey?
Yeah, what if we just were tapping on the cube and Mariah Carey was trapped in there, and
Yeah,
we unleashed her, and we just didn't know.
we didn't know.
But someone got to the center of that cube, so we successfully rescued Mariah Carey. Everybody once already. We could do it again. Yes, the Curiosity Cube. All right. Helldivers 2 boss says, blame us, not Sony, for Killzone DLC pricing. And that us, I believe, means the Helldivers 2 developers, and not, us, me and Jan. Me and Jan had nothing to do with it. This is from Eddie McCoo at GameSpot. The newly launched Killzone DLC for Sony's Helldivers 2 has not gone over entirely smoothly, as some people have made their feelings known about the pricing. Arrowhead CEO Shams Georgiani recently responded to fan questions, and among his responses was confirmation that Arrowhead, not Sony, bears responsibility for the pricing decision. It's a partnership with Sony, he said on the Helldivers Discord, as reported by IGN, but we are in the driving seat behind these decisions. This one is on us. Georgiani also pointed out how the Killzone DLC is the first crossover content in Helldivers 2, and the studio will be figuring it out as we go along. The executive went on to mention how DLC is optional, but the more paid content the company sells, the more free content the studio will be able to release. The first wave of Killzone items in Helldivers 2 launched on December 18th and will be available until December 23rd. The content ranges in prices from 90 credits up to about 615, or about $7, for the new assault rifle. A second batch of Killzone crossover content arrives on December 23rd. It remains to be seen if Arrowhead will make any changes to its pricing strategy for the second wave. That's not true. It remained to be seen, and now we've seen it. They came out with a message saying that the second half of the content will be free as a response to the backlash here. Man, pricing this stuff has always been treacherous for these companies, and it feels like, man, every game that you hear having a huge, successful live service game launch, they eventually find a way to step in it when it comes to content pricing down the line. Happened to Titanfall a bunch of times, happened to Apex Legends a bunch of times.
Yep.
It's definitely happened to Fortnite before. It's happening here now, and I can't help but think all of this over some Killzone content. But yeah,
Right. The Killzone freaks, the Hellgasts, the Hellgasters out there will probably pay whatever penny they are asked for that hot Killzone content. It's always hard, Grub, because if you price it too high, the people that aren't even interested in the specific cosmetic pack, sometimes their goodwill will be ruined, and then you'll just have a bunch of people complaining online that we're never gonna buy it in the first place, which is unfortunate.
yeah.
And then that's just gonna be some like negative stink online. But I guess good on Arrowhead for being like, all right, sorry, here's your Killzone stuff, here's your glowy orange eyes.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe giving away the second half of the stuff for free encourages more people to actually pay for the first half, so maybe this still works out for everyone involved. Yeah, I just I've never been like, oh boy, I can't wait to get more Hellgast armor on my video game characters.
I feel like in the last 2 weeks, us as a whole have been talking a lot about Killzone.
Killzone has just infested us from left and right. Yeah.
And I don't know why. Those games were okay, but why? Why is Killzone still here in 2024?
I don't know.
Why don't we talk about Vector Man?
Yeah, put Vector Man in Helldivers 2. There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, I get that Herman Holst is in charge of this whole operation now. Maybe that gives Killzone a little shield there.
We track the breadcrumbs. It turns out they're just slices of bread, Grubb.
Also, it's Killzone. I can't, every time I read it, I want to say Killzone, eh?
Delicious.
So, yeah, it sounds delicious. Absolutely. Put some cheese in that.
Well, the thing is, folks, I know, yes, let's all punch and shoot Nazis in video games, but I think you get to play as them.
You get to dress up as the Hellgast, yeah.
Which isn't the same.
No, it's definitely not the same. It is the exact opposite, in fact, of punching a Nazi, dressing up as one. Yeah, I don't know. I feel for any studio that like this is their business model, and clearly like they want to keep paying for everything going forward based on this game, and we know at this point that studios need to have paid DLC to really make that make sense. And so being able to figure this out and be like, hey, is this something that is enticing? So you'll pay this much for it. And the truth is, so a lot of people do pay those numbers, those figures, those higher numbers for these kinds of content. And that's why it gets priced this way. And then a lot of people are like, well, I'm never going to do that. So it just like looks bad from that perspective. And I think these companies try to walk a narrow line, and it's hard to pull that off. All right. There's a rumor that the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remaster might be announced next month. This is from Jonas Mackey at Game Reactor. During the high-profile Microsoft leak in the fall of 2023, when Activision Blizzard was being acquired, it was noted that Bethesda was currently working on a remaster or remake of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Since then, we haven't heard anything more about it, but several insiders have claimed that it's still on the way, including the usually very reliable Clobriel, who recently hinted at a release in 2025. Excuse me. Now joining the chorus is Insider Ecstasis, a person who has gotten a lot right before, but also a couple of false alarms. He now says that the game could possibly be shown off during the alleged Xbox event early next year, but whether that will actually happen remains to be seen. Given that it will be a very long time before the Elder Scrolls 6 is released, perhaps a refreshed Oblivion would be a nice preoccupation until then. Or what do you think is what the story here says? Yeah. This is one where, if I'm remembering the rumor right, this is the one that was going to take the basis of Oblivion, take what they have from that game, and keep the gameplay mostly intact, and then apply a new visual layer powered by Unreal Engine on top of that. So the visual engine would be Unreal, the gameplay engine would be Gamebryo. Was that what it was back then? And they would just do these two things together, and so it would like visually it would pop and look like a modern game, and then it would still play like Oblivion, which sounds great to me. I love Oblivion, and I think also this could be a test bed for the future for them, where maybe that's actually how they end up making Elder Scrolls 6, where it's like the visuals are powered by Unreal, so it can look as modern as possible. And then underneath that, they could still do all the fun stuff they do with an Elder Scrolls game because they still have all of the code there as well. Hey, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, Post Malone has been waiting for a new Elder Scrolls Grubb, so like we gotta satisfy Posty any way possible. We got to like make sure Posty gets what he wants, 100%.
Oblivion was the one that got me in there originally with Elder Scrolls. I have never really gone back to Morrowind. I always wanted to. I know people love Morrowind, but Oblivion was definitely mine. I had a great time with that. And that's why I was like so excited when Skyrim was coming out. I think that kind of bringing back Oblivion would be fantastic in this holdover period between now and when Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, because when we do the math every time, Jan, Elder Scrolls 6, Starfield came out. Was it last year? Was that last year? Or was that the year before last year?
Yeah,
last year. So we're still several years away from the Elder Scrolls 6 in the best case scenario. So we're like 3 years maybe if everything is perfect. but probably closer to 4 or 5 years. So if we could get Oblivion next year, that fills in the gap, right?
That fills in the gap. I'd personally be I'm fairly interested in checking out a remastered or a reworked Oblivion. The only Elder Scrolls game I ever checked out was Skyrim, and I enjoyed that when that came out and when that continued to come out for the next 40 years. So circling back to Oblivion, I'd love to explore that world.
Yep. Yeah. And maybe as old says, or no, I'm sorry, Et in chat says, is the horse armor DLC included? And boy, that was the first. That was the first DLC pricing scandal. That was a long time ago now, and we're still doing that dance, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
All right. The Witcher 4 may not be released on Xbox Series S. This is from Marcus Persson at Game Reactor. During the Game Awards, we got a first look at the upcoming, hotly anticipated next chapter in the Witcher saga from CD Projekt Red. A technically impressive showcase that clearly demonstrated the potential of Unreal Engine 5 and the groundbreaking visual splendor that the graphics engine enables. But will it really be possible to offer such a visual spectacle on current consoles? Yes, with some compromise, of course, but what is a bigger question mark is the Xbox Series X's little brother, the Series S, a console that has caused some problems for developers in the past. And in an interview with Eurogamer, CDPR avoided commenting on whether the Series S will meet its ambitious targets. Witcher 4 director Sebastian Kalimba gave the following comment when asked if the game could be released on Series S. He said, "I cannot right now tell you more specifics regarding that." Now, that's not an answer, so it's like no big reason to assume that it wouldn't be on the Series S. I think in general, though, Jan, at a certain point, there probably is a cutoff for that Series S that is before the Series X, right?
Yeah, someone eventually is going to draw a line, and this may be one of the first rumblings of a game just straight up doing it.
Right.
Grubb.
And my understanding is Xbox has a rule that if you put a game out on the Xbox Series X, it has to be on the Series S as well. But they've began like putting cracks in that rule here or there, where it had to be like each feature that is in the one version on X has to be on S as well. And I think with Baldur's Gate 3, that's the one that, where the co-op wasn't exactly going to work. Maybe there was another game out there that was pretty similar. They're like, hey, we have to maybe like let people have a little bit more wiggle room so we can get all these games out on both consoles. At some point, like there's going to be games that could run on Series X, can't run on Series S, no matter what. And I think at that point, does Microsoft say, well, then you can't put the game out on Xbox Series X? That doesn't make any sense. So they just have to have, you're right, that line in the sand, and some game, probably not from first party, but from third party, will be the first one to cross that. And that's just inevitable. And really, at that point, I imagine when that happens, it could be around like a 2026 timeframe where potentially Microsoft could have their next step up console, whether that's a full next gen or some sort of pro model, ready to go. So then the X kind of maybe by default becomes the S model, and then the S just goes into the background. Does that make sense?
That 100% makes sense. It's very interesting also factoring in Microsoft's new strategy of like, that's an Xbox.
Yeah.
But in this instance, the thing that is an actual Xbox may not be an Xbox anymore.
Yeah, maybe. That would be, this is all an Xbox on, but this says Xbox on it. That's not a fucking Xbox.
No, not
How dare you?
Not anymore.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, this is people in chat are like, yeah, Microsoft made things a little bit messy for themselves with this. I don't think the Series S worked out the way that they were kind of hoping. I know it has sold pretty well, all things considered, but it was not like the answer to the problem where they're like, hey, how do we kind of build a system that is more appealing to a mass audience that's more price sensitive? It's like, you got the price sensitive gamers, the people who are like they have a PS5, they have a PC, maybe they have a Switch, and they're like, well, I'll get an Xbox Series S because it's more affordable and I could justify that. You got those people. The average person out there that is hesitant about spending any money on a console, $300 was still kind of too expensive. And if they were going to spend $300 on a system, they got a Switch. So the Series S just didn't work out the way I think they were hoping it would.
Yeah.
Yes, that's not to say, as Sean said, yeah, they would barely have a console business without the Series S. That's also fair. But it just didn't do all that they were hoping for. And I think we know that based on the recent ad campaign that you mentioned of everything is an Xbox. At one point, it was supposed to be like, no, if you want an Xbox, get a Series S. And now it's like, just use your phone. All right. Last story here. A roundup of reviews for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the film. They're in here from Liam Doolin at Nintendo Life. Sonic the Hedgehog's third big screen outing arrives this week, and the critic reviews are now rolling in. The outing brings Shadow into the picture with a gun, and it seems the reviews have mostly been enjoying the fun and family-friendly action so far. Many reviews are also praising Jim Carrey's efforts as well as the addition of Keanu Reeves. Variety said it was faster and more fun. Here's a pull quote from the review. The plot finds more room for Master Emerald, the superpowered jewel introduced in the last Sonic film, and for Tails the Fox, and Knuckles the Echidna, who are now part of Sonic's Super Critter Hero team. But the real star is Fowler's shape-shifting filmmaking, which is deft enough to revel in blockbuster overkill and skewer it at the same time. Games Radar Plus thought Sonic 3 was predictable but great fun, awarding it 3 stars out of 5. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 then is a piece of overstuffed franchise affair that's simple and predictable, but great fun. Anchored by 2 great characters, Sonic and Robotnik, it's a family-friendly adventure that does nothing to revolutionize the formula Fowler has developed, but keeps the wheels turning fast enough to get everyone excited for a sequel. And that seems to be how the rest of the reviews kind of go over it as well, Jan, where it's like, it's between the, hey, this is exactly what you want. Everyone that's involved here knows what they're doing. Everyone that's turning in a performance is doing it in a fun and memorable way. And then it's just predictable. It's fine in a lot of other ways. That sounds completely acceptable to me, Jan. How about you?
Yeah, I'm not expecting something groundbreaking with a Sonic movie. Hearing it's, oh, that was a fun one, I think is going to be more than enough for families to head over to the movie theaters this holiday season. I see. I don't think I was ever worried about Sonic 3, Grubb.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I think it was like, that is going to maintain the level of quality that they've had with the first 2 movies almost assuredly. And here we are. Not too surprising.
Hey, I saw that Kristen Ritter is in this one. I'm a big fan.
Yep.
Let's go.
Love the Rit. Absolutely. Mike always says this. It's like they almost didn't make $1 billion because they had that ugly Sonic. Like it was like such a important canonical moment in the history of this film series. Of they had a bad Sonic, and they like at the last minute changed it. And by doing that, they put out a film franchise that has made more than $1 billion and will continue to make a lot of money and has TV shows. And it was all based on that last minute panic because everyone was yelling at them that was the ugliest character design they had ever seen. It's just a really funny thing to think about.
Bullying works, yes. Everybody.
We did it, everybody. And we bullied them into making $1 billion. Congratulations. Wish that worked out for me when I was bullied.
Mike, don't worry, I got you, bud.
Yeah. All right. That does it for the headlines. I got the poll question over here. I'll get that going right now. Make sure that's going to be visible for everybody. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Have you played Marvel Rivals? That was the one from 9 days ago. So let's refresh here. Are you still playing Helldivers 2? I am not, although I'm curious about getting back into it. 74% of people said no. 26% said yes. I think it's pretty decent actually that a quarter of respondents are like, yeah, I'm still playing. This does seem like maybe a little bit of a self-selection here of people who have played it before because 1.4 thousand people voted. Normally get around 3,000 people voting. So these are people that probably did play Helldivers 2 before. Like, no, I'm not. 74%, 26% said yes again. It's definitely a game I always want to go back to, but it also is like there's so much there that I'm like a little bit overwhelmed sometimes, Jan. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm in that overwhelmed camp where I don't know if any of my experience or any of my gear that I started with is still viable now. I know that a couple months into Helldivers 2 that you could still roll with your like default gear and be fine, but it feels like so much has happened, Grubb.
Yes.
Like there's robots and like ants and fire tornadoes. I think the fire tornadoes were forever ago, but there's like been several world-changing events that have happened, and I'm very out of the loop.
Yeah, and John Carson chat's saying you can get by just fine. Just hop in and start playing. Yeah, I want to. I definitely want to play more of it. But it's like, man, I also want to go back and finish Space Marine 2 and play a bunch of other stuff. So hard to find the time.
Grubb, my biggest issue and my biggest problem right now is Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that game.
I played more of it after we logged off, and I had a fantastic time, even to myself.
That's how you know it's actually fun. Is when you want to keep going back to it when we turn off the cameras. So yeah. Pretty cool. All right, new poll question: are you going to see Sonic 3 in theaters? Yes or no? We will get the results of that here on Game This Mornings on Giant Bomb tomorrow. That'll be the last episode before the holidays. But yeah, we'll get the results of the poll, talk about it on that show. I think we're gonna have Eric Van Allen come in and hang out with me. So me and Eric Van Allen will hang out for that episode. Also, speaking of Giant Bomb, other things that are happening today: voicemail dump truck.
Yes, sir.
And then we will do Blight Club tomorrow. So
Blight Club tomorrow, indeedy.
Yeah, most of the stuff has arrived for Dan. He knows he's playing Terminator, so his outfit is showing up. Everybody, you're not going to want to miss the reveal, though. It'll be pretty funny. I'll just leather pants. I'll just say
the best part is he doesn't need to wear pants.
Yeah, exactly. Right, of course. Yes, that's always the best part is making the fellow Blight Clubbers uncomfortable with things that they don't need to wear because they don't really show up on camera. But yep. All right. Looking forward to it, everybody. All right. Anything else we should mention, Jan? I can't remember.
Game of the Year podcasts will be coming out over the holiday break. We're spacing them out every Tuesday and Thursday until all 4 episodes come out.
Yeah. So for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yep. Look out for that. Yep. Like I said, last episode of Game This Mornings before the holiday break. We'll come back after that. We'll get right back into things. So we'll see y'all for that tomorrow. In the meantime, Jan Ochoa, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
It's the only way to start a Thursday.
Thank you all. Yes, and I was on a podcast. That's right. I should mention this. 90s Disney. They got it out real fast. We recorded this last night. I did my trip report with them. They asked me a bunch of questions about Disney World and taking the family, and it was a lot of fun to kind of go over everything and talk about our thought process. And then we also did a trip report on me and Mike and Sean going to Universal Hollywood. So we talked about that as well on 90s Disney. So check that out.
Mike Minotti, can I do Disney World in 5 days?
You could do Disney World in 5 days. You can. I feel like you could do that in 5. I think we had like 5 days of Disney, and then 6 was Universal. I think that's how it went down. Maybe we had 6 days of Disney. All right. Yep. Mike says, sure. I believe in you, Jan. You can make it happen. All right. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye. Go listen to 90s Disney. All right. We are off.